Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium, and I'm here to record a little video about a ladder game that I played. This is not that ladder game, but I wanted to point out, in case you didn't know, Subsneed, otherwise known as Jumpy23, was one of the semi-finalists in ADV Revival, so I think that this is going to be a really, really interesting game, and we're going to see how it goes. Let me switch the scene here. No featured Pokemon for this video. I mean, maybe I could have like picked one of the crazy sets that I had, but this is not a team that I've used in any of my other videos. So let's get into it. All right, so lead Ments versus lead Tar. BKC tells us to switch out, and thank God we listened to BKC's advice, because a Brick Break from my Mixed Ments would not have killed this Tyranitar unless I crit, and then Ice Beam certainly would have killed me. So switch to Metagross was really nice there, but because this Tyranitar has Ice Beam, it's most likely going to have Fire Blast. I decide to eat that Fire Blast and go for a Meteor Mash, but I don't get the kill. And I should have known this because I'm running a particularly defensive Metagross. Not max defense, but pretty high anyway. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough click there, but switching to something else, I don't know what exactly I could have went to. And if this Tyranitar opts to switch now, which I don't think it should, I could have maybe played to get a spike up and it would have died, but now it's out of spike range. So I can go to Blissey on a Fire Blast here. Should be threatening a KO with Seismic Toss or Ice Beam. Well, maybe it depends on Ice Beam. Into Celebi. Celebi is tough, but I have my own Celebi. So I'm thinking that it's possible I could have went to Salamence here. The problem with Celebi, I have utility Celebi. I'm not going to be able to like beat the opposing Celebi. If this is say like a Calm Mind HP Fire Celebi, I could be in trouble. I opt to go for Leech Seed, seeing if my opponent would switch from their Blissey before I'd switch to mine, or switch out of their Celebi before I would switch mine out. But since they went for a substitute, I'm assuming there's some kind of sub-pass Celebi, so I'm going to hit Parasong. And then, based on Tyranitar being the only Pokemon revealed, and you know, I don't really have a need to switch, I was going to go for Hidden Power on my Celebi. Now that was really good because it broke this Tyranitar's substitute. Had my opponent went to something like Metagross instead, I could have been in trouble there, but given that I only have one attacking move on the Celebi, Hidden Power Grass, might as well fire it off, and if Tyranitar is the switch, then I can catch it. So my opponent kind of has a little pick of what to do here. They could have tried to stay in and attack my Celebi, or they could have switched. I mean, staying in is tough because if I stay in with my Celebi and go for HP Grass, I would be outspeed and kill this Tyranitar. So they'd have to have some crazy balls, I think, to click like a Fire Blast or even a Pursuit. But now that we're in with Skarmory, we can simply just get a spike up. Is that what I opt to do? Yes, alright. You have to take Jim's advice. When you can layer, layer. Alright? We'll see if I hold up to that later in this game. I'm going to go to Celebi because Celebi is my best thing to stop a sub-pass from going on. And I happen to be up against a mixed Zapdos, dealing 35% with Drill Peck. It's not the worst case scenario. I do end up spending 2 of my Leech Seed PP to attack that Zapdos. It says I'm at 14, but really it's 13, based on attacking into a pursuit, or sorry, a pressure Pokemon. Imagine if you had double PP on Pokemon that had pursuit on their set. That would be insane. I can simply recover And if my opponent baton passes, you probably saw this on the last go around, but this goes at the same time. So let's see here. The thing is, there was probably some spots here where I could have set some more spikes with the Scarm. But so far, I think we've been playing this one kind of safe. I don't know if there's potentially a Magneton in the back. It's not looking that likely based on Celebi plus Zapdos, but it's not impossible per se. But I do like this play to get Metagross in to get some HP back. We're slowly climbing back up, and my opponent will actually let the Zapdos switch out there, which makes sense given that it was going to die to Parasong there. And I stay in and click with Meteor Mash, and I get the raise, which is really nice. So now that I have this raise, I opt to take an Earthquake onto the Metagross. Reason being, not because I thought I was going to do a lot of damage, but I thought that my opponent was going to Ice Beam trying to catch my Celebi. Because right now, it seems like my opponent's game plan is to use Celebi to pass a substitute to something that is going to set up and sweep. And as long as I have a Celebi with Parasong, I can stop that. So I figured that my opponent would try to predict to nail the Celebi. So I stay in and get some Earthquake damage, but at the cost of effectively only 3% of my HP, which I think is a very reasonable trade for right now. Now I can switch, because my opponent is not super duper incentivized to go for Ice Beam again, but they do. They don't end up doing that much damage to my Celebi, so it's probably just like a standard defensive Swampert. I'll go for HP Grass in case that they stay in. I think there's maybe an argument I could have tried to make a double to Scarm like I did earlier in the game, but I think that all things considered that this is okay. I think I'm going to go for an early Parasong here. And this is a turn where I go to Skarmory. Okay, so sort of thoughts on this play here. My opponent has 3 turns to click something with their Celebi. They're not behind a substitute yet. They could sub and they could baton pass, but then on that 3rd turn where they get to do something with the baton pass mon, they're going to have to switch because they can't really get anything out of that turn. So I think perhaps a better play for me would have been to Leech Seed with the Celebi, because the only thing that the Celebi can reasonably do is either Leech Seed back, and it's like, okay, I'd rather be on Celebi if they're going to Leech Seed back, or they're going to have to switch, and if they switch out of Celebi, the chances are whatever they switch to is going to take Leech Seed. And instead I go to Scarm, which could have worked out for me maybe if they went to something like Swampert, but they end up going Zapdos, which is probably the worst case scenario for my Scarm. By the way, I don't have an item on Scarm. I'm not YOLO Scarm with Soft Sand. I'm itemless with Thief, so that's the sort of premise there. I will have to go to Blissey to block the Zapdos, but they baton pass into Medicham. That's crazy. Focus Punch is really, really likely here, if not Brick Break. So I will go to Ment, and that will take some of the HP off my Ment, which is not great. But I can simply go for a Dragon Claw and get some decent damage into something. And then switch to Blissey on the Starmie, who is going to spin the 1 hazard away. Chances are, it's actually hard to say. If they're an off me, then this could be really good for me. I could just get some spikes up, and eventually the Starmie is going to die, and then I can keep my spikes on the board, which is going to be really good against this baton passing Celebi. If it's a Death Me though, then it probably has Recover, and I don't know how much extra help I'm gonna get there. But I do make a nice call onto the Celebi, catching it with an Ice Beam on switch here. What I'm going to opt to do, the Celebi is going to recover. I say MB because, you know, it's not nice to get a crit, especially in a pivotal position. I go for another Ice Beam. So my thought process here is that if I get a crit or a freeze, then this Celebi is done. Like, it's not going to be able to do much of anything. It could switch out, but any switch is going to give me a lot of value. Zapdos doesn't want to take Ice Beam. Starmie's getting really low. Medicham only has but so much HP, and Swampert even is gonna not like to take that Ice Beam. So I think I'm fine doing it there. Here's the problem though. I play for it again. The issue is that, you know, my opponent has to recover the Celebi, right? If I don't get my freeze or my crit, like here, then on the next turn they're going to recover, and they're probably going to be out of range of 2 Ice Beams. So, and if they ever get like a Leech Seed off, then they're going to be healing way too much. So I would have to go something. Probably Skarmory would be best. And if I had went to Skarmory on one of these guaranteed recover turns, I could have got my Spike here. Now I have Skarmory, and I always get mixed up when there's a Skarmory and a Starmie on this team. Like I want to say the other one when I mean the other one. You know what I mean? So in this position here, Jim's advice, and this is the advice that I would suggest that you take here, is that when you can layer, and especially because there's no Magneton on this team, I should have got the Spike up. But instead I go for Thief. The reason why I went for Thief was because I thought that the Starmie might switch in, and if it was a Def me, then like getting a Spike up is not going to make progress for me. However, I think throughout the course of this, this seemed to be more like a offensive me, which makes a lot more sense with the sort of team structure that's going on here. So Thief really was not that great. I was not clicking Thief because I thought that the Celebi was gonna like Leech Seed or something. And I know that my opponent is gonna be cautious of the Thief for the Celebi, given that my Skarmory has gotten 0 bits of leftovers over this entire game. But like, I don't know. There was a turn I could have gotten a layer up, and this Starmie would have lost half of its remaining health. Simply for switching in. I should have taken the layer there. So my opponent will go for a Leech Seed, and I'm going to roar them out. Alternatively, I could have went to Celebi and hit a Perish Song, which in hindsight maybe would have been a little better because I would have had an opportunity to get another layer up anyway. So see, I could have gotten a layer early, and then we could have been in the same sort of situation where I could have roared, and if I roared it out into, say, Tyranitar, I could have gotten, like, that other Spike there, right? Or I roared out into Swampert, right? And I could have got that other Spike. Tyranitar's in. I could have got the 3rd layer down, and 3rd layer would be deadly for Starmie. It could never switch in. It would only be able to do so if one of these other Pokemon dives to Sand. Because otherwise it would switch in, it would take sand damage, and then that would be enough to kill it. So right there, if I had got 3 layers, I think this would have been a pretty easy win. But I did not, so we're gonna have to see how I play this out. It's a Brick Break Tyranitar. So I was thinking that Ice Beam, Fire Blast Pursuit revealed, that you would most likely either have Crunch or Roar. Brick Break to me is not a super duper common Tyranitar set, but it is the one that Jumpy is running here. So do I fault myself for not playing around that? Not really, but this is okay. I get into Starmie though, and Starmie is going to threaten to kill with either a Surf or a Hydro Pump. On this team I have Surf, but I'm going to go for a Thunder Wave. The Reason being that if something like Zapdos was going to come in or to stop it, then that would have been great. And if Celebi comes in, well, Surf is not going to do much anyway. I might as well get my Thunder Wave off. So here, I end up going to Salamence. And just thinking about this turn here, I probably should have went to Skarmory because I can get another layer up. And even if, say, Starmie comes in to block that, it's tenuous for my opponent. If I go for a Thief on the Starmie, it's practically dead. If I have Drill Peck, which I don't recall if I have Drill Peck or Toxic on this set just at the moment, but if I had Drill Peck, I would have killed the Starmie switching in on the Spike. So like Skarmory usually ends up pretty good for me, no matter what my opponent does. Even if I get the second Spike and Starmie switches in and spins it away, like it's in a tough spot. It can't all kill my Skarmory to stop it from attacking, heal, and spin the Spike away. So like he needs to do all three of those things if it's Starmie versus Skarmory. So I should have went to Skarm there. So I have Salamence though, so I could click a Fire Blast if I want to. Instead I go for HP Grass, thinking that Swampert might want to switch in. I think that this is a little bit of a, I don't know, an idealistic, a quixotic perhaps. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce that word. Click by me. I was hoping that maybe Swampert would come in, but Zapdos just seems pretty reasonable here. Even I mean, I guess it would have been nice to click into Tyranitar as well, and it would have been good enough into Medicham. But yeah, Zapdos coming in is a really, really easy thing there. I don't know. It was kind of a tough situation for my opponent, though, doing anything other than going Zapdos. So maybe I should have identified that and went to something that would have punished the Zapdos. Like, even Blissey. Well, okay, no. Going Blissey would be bad because I'm low enough to die to Drill Peck, so that's not good. It's hard to know what I should have went there, because with my team as low as it is right now, particularly the Blissey, I'm not going to be able to switch into the Zapdos very well. I think I can go to Celebi here on a Thunderbolt. But my opponent calls it out and goes for Drill Peck. And, like, doing 36, I think that this might be a roll, and I'm just going to play for it. Thought being that if I lose Celebi, like, I mean, Celebi stops the opposing Celebi from being able to baton pass around and do all that shenanigans. But, yeah, it's probably the most acceptable loss. I think I'm going to say at some point in here GG, because I think it's over at this stage. Yes, exactly. Because my thought was that this Zapdos is probably like, if it's standard mixed Zap, then it's going to be 252 mild, which means that it has a plus special attack nature. So Thunderbolt into my Metagross should be like easily 2-hit KOing, and I don't have a move to like really kill this Zapdos. I go for a Meteor Mash, hoping that like if my opponent stays, I could maybe get a raise or something. Or if it was like a substitute, I could maybe break the substitute. Instead, I go up into Starmie, who is having to recover spam versus the Swampert, which is not great. I go for a Surf to get the Swampert kind of low. And then I'm going to Surf again to try to kill, but I don't get the roll, and then Starmie is dead. So that's pretty rough. Salamence is here. Gonna force the Swampert out or kill it. And my opponent opts to sack the Swampert, which I think is sensible because you don't want everything else taking a Dragon Claw if you can help it. And then I end up sacking the Skarm here. Thought being that I think I'm gonna need Blissey for the end game. Like if Blissey dies, then I'm just gonna lose to Zapdos. I go to Metagross because I sort of identify that. But the problem is if I lose Metagross, I'll probably lose this game as well because then I don't have anything like, well, actually, I think if I have Salamence plus one Pokemon that can like take a hit from Starmie, then we might be okay. Because Salamence should beat these remaining three, Tar, Celebi, and Medicham. But it's going to be tough into Zapdos and Starmie. But at this stage, I think it's pretty much lost for me. I'm going to go for Protect with my Metagross, which was maybe not a fantastic play. Then I go for Meteor Mash and I miss, which is really, really bad. But the thing is, like, depending on this Celebi set, Meteor Mash could have killed there. So I don't know why my opponent was willing to risk that. I feel like Zapdos would have taken it pretty well. But I'm going to swap out because I think that this is kind of a bad spot. And then my opponent goes for Substitute, which is like basically the only move. Well, it's not the only move that gives my Blissey the opportunity to heal back up. But like, if my opponent clicked Baton Pass there, I would have in a really, really dire spot. They could have went to Zapdos and then fired off the Drill Peck. I would have had to probably go to Metagross, and I'm probably 2-hit KO'd by a T-Bolt. But, I mean, if my opponent wants to let me have that, I guess, then that's fine. I go to Salamence here, identifying that if I stayed in with Blissey, I was probably going to lose a Pokemon for it. And whatever came in was going to get big healing from the leftovers. Whereas if I go to Salamence, yeah, I'm probably going to lose Salamence, but at least the opponent is not going to get leftovers for it. And Salamence should be faster than pretty much most things, but actually, I'm thinking about this. Why did my opponent not just Baton Pass to Zapdos? Zapdos, I think, was revealed to be faster, and T-Bolt should be killing my Salamence. And it's really tough for me to switch to Blissey, because if you go for Drill Peck, you know what? Drill Peck might have even killed Salamence from there. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like if they Baton Pass to Zap and Drill Peck, they would have won. I don't know. But in any case, what they did allows me to get in Metagross, who is... Remember that this Metagross was like at 30% HP at some point? It's kind of crazy. So then they opt to sack Starmie there, which is kind of crazy, I think. And then they go to Celebi to get the Leech Seed off. I do just enough that Celebi is going to die to Sand Chip. Well, I mean, a little bit. Then Jumpy says that they think they threw, but I say I think they still win because my sort of thought process there is that, like, Zapdos is going to beat my Metagross, and then when it beats my Metagross, it just has to trade into my Blissey, and then Medicham wins from there, right? Obviously, Medicham is going to kill Blissey. But in any case, we're on turn 57, and I'm thinking to myself, I do not survive a Fire Blast plus, like, Leech Seed. Well, okay, I guess I technically survive a Fire Blast plus Leech Seed chip, but I was like, not by much, and at that point, Medicham would easily win the game. So my thought process was, the only way I can win this is if I dodge a Fire Blast. But my opponent actually clicks Brick Break, trying to predict the Blissey to come in, which is, I don't know if that's a great play because, well, let's see. I don't know how much exactly the Medicham would do to Metagross. Did that happen earlier in this game? Did Medicham hit? Medicham. I'm gonna do some digging here. Did Medicham ever click a move? focus punch something. I don't know. So I'm not really that interested in doing a calc to figure out if how much it would have done to my Metagross. My thought would be it would 2-hit KO, or at least it would KO for sure. I mean, it would KO for sure after Fire Blast. But like, had I gone to Blissey on the Fire Blast from the Tar, my Blissey would still have to kill the Tar somehow. In which case, Tar can get a nice Brick Break off into the Blissey. Depending on how much attack investment it has, it might just 2-hit KO my Blissey outright. And then if Blissey somehow manages to beat the Tar, I kill it, and then Medicham comes in, and then Medicham is going to just probably put my Metagross into dives to T-Bolt range from Zapdos. So in any case, I think my opponent has a pretty much a win here, as long as they go for Fire Blast and don't miss it. But they go for Brick Break. Doesn't do much, if any, to my Metagross, which is why you have so much defense investment, I guess. And then Medicham is in, going to take some Leech Seed chip from my Metagross. And I just think to myself, I have to Meteor Mash, because, like, you know, I can't switch to Blissey if this thing goes for Focus Punch or Brick Break. It's cooked. But I get my solid 32% off into the Zapdos with Meteor Mash. And at this stage, I feel like, well, T-Bolt is just going to cook me, so I have to go to Blissey. And they have Toxic. They go for Toxic into the Blissey. That is, to me, that's one of the more... I don't understand that play either, because I feel like Drill Peck, right, 27, I guess Drill Peck doesn't do that much. It puts my Blissey on a timer, and I'm going to have to switch, but if I want to preserve the Blissey, but if I can just dual Ice Beam into the Zapdos, then we're kind of fine. And now I make a really nice play here. So my thought process, essentially, is that Zapdos is going to have to go for Drill Peck to hit the Blissey, right? But if I switch to Metagross as they go for Drill Peck, then chances are they could lose this. They would lose this game. I don't know. It depends on how much damage their Zapdos T-Bolt does. The fact that my opponent is not clicked T-Bolt into this Metagross once is like also really crazy to me. I don't really understand why that's not, why that was of such little value. Like, I think there were definitely points where my opponent could have traded that. I mean, maybe they were afraid of Rock Slide on my Metagross. That could be something, but like, I don't know. In any case, they would have had to Drill Peck into Blissey, right? So, like, T-Bolt is not really happening, because if they T-Bolt into Blissey, Blissey kills the Zapdos, and then Medicham, yeah, Medicham can kill the Blissey, but then Metagross usually beats the Medicham, as long as I hit my Meteor Mash. But, and also Earthquake might have killed, I'm not sure, I didn't do the calc. But my other thought was that, well, if I go for Ice Beam and my opponent goes to Medicham and I don't get a crit or a freeze, because Ice Beam shouldn't kill Medicham, then I'm going to have to switch to Metagross. And if I switch Metagross into a Focus Punch, or if like Brick Break does enough, then I just lose. So on that turn, I was saying, all right, I have to switch to Metagross. That's my only way to win, I think. Because if Zapdos goes for... I need Zapdos to either go for Drill Peck, and then I have, like, sort of a 50-50 maybe. I could maybe go back to Blissey and then just heal the damage. Although I don't know if I could even do that, because if I click Soft Boiled and allow Medicham to come in, then I'm cooked. In any case... Like, I figured that Medicham would have been the most likely play for my opponent, and I go to Metagross responding to that. So that was perfect. I'm going to... Alright, so Brick Break, we see the damage there. 37%. That's actually a lot. My opponent says that they threw as fuck. But I'm looking at calcs here, and I'm like, this Zapdos still, like, kills me? guaranteed if it's 252 modest or mild. And like that's really bad. I have to protect. I have a chance still to live, but I'm going to sack Blissey to give myself the best chance because I can come back in, heal, get another protect, and I think that 252 mild or modest is still a roll here. I mean, I think prior to this, it was not quite. Um, like it was not quite, but I ended up getting the kill there, and Zapdos is done. Now, granted, I maybe should have recognized that this Zapdos was not a max special attack Zapdos, given that it outsped my Salamence earlier in the game. And most of the time, Mix Zap is running like 270, which would have been a lot slower than my Mix Ments. I think my Mix Ments here is it's either 296 or 299. I don't know. I don't recall. But um, in any case, Metagross lives that Thunderbolt, gets the Meteor Mash kill, and I somehow win this game. So my sort of takeaways from this is that I need to be less shy about getting the spikes up with Skarmory. If you recall, Benji in my Q&A video asked, why don't I go Skarm? And this is because I shared this replay with him so that we could analyze it together. And most of both of our notes is that I think I should have went to Skarm more often, or I should have been clicking spikes while the Skarm was in. I think that there are kind of two things that scared me here. Is that one, because I don't have leftovers on this Skarmory if I don't steal them. That I was going to be taking too much chip and I would lose my Skarm. If I lose my Skarm before the Starmie is gone, then I could be in trouble because I won't get my spikes at all. Um, So I tried to play to not lose the Skarmory before my opponent lost Starmie, which I think I was successful in doing. I know I just watched it, but I don't recall. In any case, um, there was also the sort of problem that I was worried that Starmie would just undo the progress and I would be able to do more by not going for the second layer. But like the second layer is the necessary step to getting to the third layer, and getting to the third layer would have been like basically a win condition for me. So, because it would have killed off pretty much everything other than the Zapdos, and as long as I have Blissey, like if I could ever get a soft boil with Blissey, Blissey should just beat Zapdos one on one. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the game there. And shout outs to Jumpy, who's a great player, who thought that I was going to win this game at some point, or thought that I had a chance, and I got there. Now, granted, I do think that the plays that my opponent made were a big reason why I got there. You know, I didn't put the foot on the gas by getting all the spikes up, which allowed my opponent to like claw into the lead, but he made some plays that allowed me to get back. So like that's kind of the conclusion here. So set more spikes, go to Skarmory more often, and uh, then you'll win the game. And that's it. That's all I have to say.